Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And thank you very much also to a man named Matt Schlapp. What a job he's done. And to CPAC. I actually started quite a while ago in CPAC and came here, probably made my first real political speech, and I enjoyed it so much that I came back for a second one, then a third, then I said, what the hell, let's run for president, right? But it's wonderful to be back with so many great patriots, old friends, and brave, young conservatives. What a future you have. Our movement and our future in our country is unlimited. What we've done together has never been done in the history, maybe of beyond our country, maybe in the history of the world. They came from the mountains and the valleys and the cities. They came from all over. And what we did in 2016, the election, we call it, with a capital E, it's never been done before, and we're going to do it, I think, again in 2020, and the numbers are going to be even bigger. And we all had to endure as I was running. So you had 17 Republicans plus me. And I was probably more of a conservative than a Republican. People just didn't quite understand that. They didn't understand it. I think now with what we've done with the judiciary and so many other things, I think they get it very well. And it's driving the other side crazy. But we all had to endure, remember? How many times did you hear for months and months, there is no way to 270? You know what that means, right? There is no way to 270. They couldn't get me there. We might as well have just given up. But there wasn't any way to 270. In fact, I actually went up to Maine to get one, and I did win the one, but we didn't need the one. We won Maine. We won our half of Maine, remember? You have Nebraska. We won both in Nebraska. We won the half we had to win in Maine. So we got the one, but we didn't need the one because we didn't get 270. We got 306 to 223. 223, 306. A state called Wisconsin, a state called Michigan, where, by the way, where Fiat Chrysler just announced a $4.5 billion incredible expansion and new plant, doubling their workforce. Many, many car companies have moved back to Michigan and are continuing to do so. Big numbers. Nobody ever thought they'd see that happen. So I think we're going to do even better in 2020. I think we're going to do numbers that people haven't seen for a long time. The men and women here today are on the front lines of protecting America's interest, defending America's value, and reclaiming our nation's priceless heritage. It's true. With your help, we are reversing decades of blunders and betrayals. These are serious, serious betrayals to our nation and to everything we stand for. It's been done by the failed ruling class that enriched foreign countries at our expense. It wasn't America first. In many cases, it was America last. Those days are over, long over. America is winning again. America is respected again. And the world knows it. When I meet with prime ministers, when I meet with presidents, and I get along with them, because they know that what's taken place over many years, not just the Obama administration, long before that, they can't believe themselves that they got away with it. They can't believe it. An impossible thing. And they like me. And the reason they like me, they tell me, they say, Mr. President, I said, as an example, President Xi of China, I have great respect, we have a great relationship. I say, how is it possible that you got away with this for so long? And he said, because nobody ever asked us to change. It's true. When they charge 40% tariffs on our cars going into China, and we charge them nothing coming into our country, when they raise their tariff from 10% to 25% and then to 40%, and they said to me, we expected that somebody would call and say, you can't do that. Nobody called, so we just left it. And I don't blame them. We should have been doing the same thing to them, but we didn't. True. Right? Hard to believe. It's hard to believe. But now things are different. Now we're negotiating with China. They wouldn't negotiate with previous administrations. But I found some very old laws from when our country was rich, really rich. The old tariff laws, we had to dust them off. You could hardly see, they were so dusty. But fortunately, they weren't terminated. We started getting politically correct even back then. But I said, when we were doing the great things, what happened to those laws? And I checked, and I found 301 and 382. I found one 1938, where we could do what we have to do. But you know, they had a debate it was really a rough time in our country because we had so much money, we didn't know what the hell to do with it. Tough time. It was called the Great Tariff Debate. Mark Levin will look this up. And the problem is with Mark, if I make a little mistake, he'll let us know on Sunday night. I got to be very careful when I talk about this. But it was the Great Tariff Debate of 1888. And the debate was, we didn't know what to do with all the money we were making. We were so rich. And McKinley, prior to being president, he was very strong on protecting our assets, protecting our country. And he made statements that others cannot come into our country and steal our wealth and steal our jobs and build their country and not defend our country. We can't do that. We can't ever allow that to happen. And you know, I don't know, maybe you know, I'm totally off script, right? Thank you, darling. You know I'm totally off script right now. And this is how I got elected, by being off script. true. And if we don't go off script, our country's in big trouble, folks, because we have to get it back. And when I look at what's happening on the other side, I encourage it. I say, no, I think the new Green Deal, or whatever the hell they call it, the Green New Deal, right? Green New Deal. I encourage it. I think it's really something that they should promote. They should work hard on. It's something our country needs. Desperately, they have to go out and get it. But I'll take the other side of that argument only because I'm mandated to. But they should stay with that argument. Never change. Never change. No planes. No energy. When the wind stops blowing, that's the end of your electric. Let's hurry up. Darling? Darling, is the wind blowing today? I'd like to watch television, darling. No, but it's true. So the great tariff debate of 1888, and then we had so much money. We could do whatever we wanted. We built forces up that were incredible. Then in 1913, they ended tariffs, okay? They ended tariffs. Somebody got stupid, and they ended tariffs. They said, oh, it's okay for other nations to come in. I won't use a certain word because it's not politically, but everybody knows the word I'd love to use. Should I use it? I won't do it. Our great First Lady always said, don't use certain words, please. I say, but the audience wanted me to do it. She said, don't do it. And the problem is, if I do that, they won't put the little preamble that we just went through. They'll just use the word, and they'll say, isn't that terrible? So I won't use it. I've learned, because with the fake news, if you tell a joke, if you're sarcastic, if you're having fun with the audience, if you're on live television with millions of people and 25,000 people in an arena, and if you say something like, Russia, please, if you can, get us Hillary Clinton's emails. Please, Russia, please. Please get us the emails. Please. So everybody's having a good time. I'm laughing. We're all having fun. And then that fake CNN and others say, he asked Russia to go get the emails. Horrible. I mean, I saw it like 2 weeks ago. I'm watching, and they're talking about one of the points. He asked Russia for the emails. These people are sick, and I'm telling you, they know the game. They know the game. And they play it dirty, dirtier than anybody's ever played the game. Dirtier than it's ever been played. But the thing that we've done is very special, because on trade and because of tariffs, and I know there are people in the Republican Party and people, really even conservatives, good conservatives, they don't like tariffs. I'm not liking or not liking. The minimum, the greatest negotiating tool in the history of our country. Do you think China would be sending their top representatives over? Right now, China's paying 25% tariff on $50 billion worth of technology goods. I was then going to charge them 25% on $200 billion. Not like 200 million, that's a lot. This is 200 with a B, billion. 200 billion. So, but I was nice because we're having a very strong negotiation, which if it weren't for tariffs, and I tell this to President Xi, this is nothing to hide. I would never be talking like this because in theory, it could hurt your negotiating position, but in my case, it can't because it's true. I was nice, and I left it at 10% on 200 billion, and here's the beauty. We've lost so much money with China, $500 billion a year, and on trade is such a disaster, it's $507 billion a year. China, just one country. We lose with everybody, almost, but China's one country. $507 billion for many years. So the beauty is this. I have $250 billion more to put tariffs on. The numbers are staggering. Billions of dollars right now are pouring into our treasury. And for those of you that haven't done the research, if you look, of the 25%, our country, as it's turned out, because it's now been on there for a long while, and I'm in no rush because I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Of the 25 points, we've paid for 4 points, and China's paid for 21 points. Okay, 21. That's what the numbers are. It's very simple. You know, everyone said, oh, it's a tax on our... It's not really. And what China and other countries do sometimes is they will subsidize it. So the tax really is incredible, but what it is beyond everything else, I can negotiate. But then you have senators and a few congressmen, but not Mark Meadows. Where's the great Mark Meadows? He's here something. Man, has he been there? Mark and Jim Jordan, and I want to name every one of those couple of hundred people because we do have a lot. I want to name every damn one of them. They have been incredible. They've been fighting, and I just see Mark in the audience. They've been fighting with Deb, much more important. His wife is incredible. What an asset. He would be nowhere without her. Right? But they fight so hard on this witch hunt, this phony deal that they put together, this phony thing that now looks like it's dying, so they don't have anything with Russia. There's no collusion. So now they go and morph into, let's inspect every deal he's ever done. We're going to go into his finances. We're going to check his deals. We're going to check. These people are sick. They're sick. I saw a little shifty Schiff yesterday. No, it's the first time. He went into a meeting and he said, we're going to look into his finances. I said, where did that come from? He always talked about Russia. Collusion with Russia. The collusion delusion. So now we're waiting for a report, and we'll find out whether or not, and who we're dealing with. We're waiting for a report by people that weren't elected. Think of this. We had the greatest election. In all fairness, I used to hear Andrew Jackson. This was now greater than the election of Andrew Jackson. People say that. No, people say it. I'm not saying it. Right? This was the equivalent or greater. You know, they used to go to Ronald Reagan when I first started. This is Ronald Reagan. Then we started really doing well, and they were coming from everywhere to vote. Those red hats and white ones. The key isn't the color. The key is what it says. Make America great again. That's what it says. Right? Right? But we had the greatest of all time. Now we have people that lost. And unfortunately, you put the wrong people in a couple of positions, and they leave people for a long time that shouldn't be there. And all of a sudden, they're trying to take you out with bullshit, okay? With bullshit. Now, Robert Mueller never received a vote, and neither did the person that appointed him. And as you know, the Attorney General says, I'm going to recuse myself. I'm going to recuse. And I said, why the hell didn't he tell me that before I put him in? How do you recuse yourself? But the person that appointed Robert Mueller never received a vote. Robert Mueller put 13 of the angriest Democrats in the history of our country on the commission. Now, how do you do that? These are angry, angry people. You take a look at them. One of them was involved with the Hillary Clinton Foundation running it. Another one has perhaps the worst reputation of any human being I've ever seen. All killers. In fact, it would have been actually better for them if they put half and half, and Mueller can do whatever he wants anyway, which he'll probably do. But we have conflicts. I had a nasty business transaction with Robert Mueller a number of years ago. I said, why isn't that mentioned? He wanted the job as FBI director. I mean, these are things that are out there. They know it. Why isn't that, and I didn't give it to him, why isn't that mentioned? Jim Comey, Lion James Comey, is his best friend. James Comey is his best friend. And those are a few of the conflicts. Other than that, it's wonderful. So everybody's waiting. I thought of it this morning, Mark, and I heard you made an incredible speech and statement today, Mark Levin. I heard it was incredible. And I was on the way, but I'll see it later. I guarantee I'll be watching it later. I have one of the great inventions in history. It's called TiVo. I think it's actually better than television, because television's practically useless without TiVo, right? But I'll be watching it later, Mark. But people that got no votes. But I heard this morning, President Trump is waiting for the Mueller report. I said, wait a minute, let me get this straight. So the Attorney General recuses himself, and I don't fire him. No obstruction. That's the other thing. If you use your rights, if you use your power, if you use Article 2, it's called obstruction, but only for Trump, for nobody else. So the Attorney General is weak and ineffective, and he doesn't do what he should have done. Somebody that never got a vote writes a powerful letter, horrible, about Comey. Every single Democrat said Comey should be fired, or worse if possible. Every Republican said everybody, in fact, when I fired Comey, I said, you know, First Lady, I said, Melania, I'm doing something today. I'm doing it because it really has to be done. He's bad. He's a bad guy. That's been proven now with all of the emails and the text. I'm doing something that has to be done. But you know the good news? It's going to be bipartisan. It's going to be so popular. It's going to be bipartisan. Every Democrat hates him. Every Republican hates him. He did a horrible job at the FBI. Speak to the real agents, the real people, because the people in the FBI are incredible people, not the sleaze on top. And I said to the First Lady, I said, but you know the good news? The good news is that this is going to be so bipartisan, everyone's going to love it. So we fire Comey, and Schumer, who called for his resignation many times, Podesta, I believe that day, because he still hasn't gotten over getting his ass kicked, okay? I believe that day called for his resignation. That day, Podesta, the great genius of campaigns, he called for the Comey resignation. Others, almost every, I would say, Mark, would you say virtually every Democrat, virtually every, I can't think of anybody that said he's doing a good job. So I said to Melania, the good news, this will be a popular thing. And I fire a bad cop, I fire a dirty cop, and all of a sudden the Democrats say, how dare he fire him? How dare he do this? And that's where we are, folks. That's where we are. We're in this swamp of Washington, D.C. But you know what? We're winning, and they're not. We're winning, and they're not. So just to finish, I'll tell you, MatchLab is loving this. He's saying this is a lot more than we paid for. You know, normally you read a few pages and you say, bye, folks. But you know what I like about this? Number one, I'm in love, and you're in love. We're all in love together. We've done something that nobody's ever done, right? It's easy. No, it's easy. You know, a great friend of mine from New York, he's a stone-cold killer. He's a brutal man. He's actually not even a good friend of mine because he'd turn on me in 2 seconds if it was a problem. But he's a very rich guy. And he said, what are you going to speak about today? Like, what are you going to speak? I said, I don't know. He said, I just heard that you have the biggest crowd in the history of CPAC. They're all over. By the way, not only this giant room, they're in many hotel rooms all over the place. You're just better at real estate than they are. Yeah. But this guy, you all know his name, very rich guy, and he has a problem with a thing called public speaking. If he has to speak to more than like 5 people, he chokes. He can't breathe, you know. Are you okay? He kills people for a living, meaning mentally and financially. But if there's like an audience of 9, it's like... So he said to me, how the hell do you do that? And I said, it's easy. And the reason it's easy, I really mean this. There's so much love in this room. It's easy to talk. You can talk your heart out. You really can. There's love in this room. You can talk your heart out. It's easy. It's easy. It's easy. And we've had that from the day I came down with your first lady on the escalator in Trump Tower. It's been easy. And you know what? We never had an empty seat. We went out and helped Ted Cruz. We went out and helped so many people. And I'll tell you what, if we didn't do those 32 rallies, and it wasn't easy, when you're doing rallies with 25, 30,000 people, in Texas, we had 109,000 people sign up. We used the Houston Rockets Arena. It holds 22,000. Tens of thousands were outside. We were sending notices, please don't come. That's a little different. Usually people are begging, well, yeah, like, can somebody come? We never had an empty seat. Of course, the Washington Post, a guy named David Weigel, he wrote an article, some arena, no, listen to this. He wrote an article. He got there 4 hours early. He took pictures of an empty arena. He then put out a note, something to the effect, not very good crowd size, Mr. President. And I never saw it because I don't follow the guy, but thousands of people that were in that arena that was packed with 25,000 people outside that couldn't get in. He got there 4 or 5 hours early because he doesn't fly private, you know. And maybe it's because of the carbon footprint. You think maybe that's... Maybe. It must be the carbon footprint. He just doesn't want private. But he got there hours early. And, you know, the place hadn't started taking in people. They weren't going to take them in. So there were virtually nobody. And, you know, whatever it was, 18,000, when you have nobody, it's a little scary looking. So he took pictures. And you know who really got even? Our people. because they were incensed. We had people sitting on the stairwells. We had people sitting in every seat. I don't think we've had an empty seat since we announced. And from the day we came down the escalator, I really don't believe we've had an empty seat at any arena, at any stadium. It's been an incredible thing. And that's why I say this has never, ever happened before. And now we have to verify it in 2020 with an even bigger victory. And by the way, just to finish that story, Chris, the great Sarah Huckabee and Mercedes, who is incredible, sitting right here. Mercedes, thank you. They always say, you know, they're good people, right? Much better than I am. They always say, don't bring it up. Don't fight. Don't fight. Everyone understands. I said, they don't understand. If I don't explain it, how are they going to understand? So remember the empty arena one, right? And then it was shown, and the Washington Post had to do, and this particular writer had to do I thought he was going to get fired. I mean, if that were a conservative, he would have been fired on the spot. He would have been humiliated for what he did because it was fake news. Nobody was in the arena. There were thousands outside, but they hadn't opened the gates yet. They did the same thing at our big inauguration speech. You take a look at those crowds. And I watched one of the evening shows that are ridiculous, how horrible they are, how mean, how horrible. And I watched it by mistake. And they showed from the White House all the way down. They showed from the there were people, nobody's ever seen it. The Capitol, down to the Washington Monument. People, but I saw pictures that there were no people. Those pictures were taken hours before, right? And they always mention crowd size. He talks about crowd size. So I'm constantly bugging Mercedes whenever we have a slow moment. I say, Mercedes and Sarah, show them the pictures. Show them and compare them with what they put on television. Those pictures were taken hours before. And remember this also, not that Obama would ever do this, but we had fencing all the way down to the Washington Monument, and it was raining, and it was wet, and the grass was wet. And women and men, and I consider them totally equal, so I'm not going to say it's harder. In fact, it's probably, with the men I know, it's actually easier for the women to make the walk, right? But they had to walk all the way down. They had to walk with high heels in many cases. They had to walk all the way down to the Washington Monument and then back. And I looked and I made a speech and I said before I got on, I said to the people that were sitting next to me, I've never seen anything like this. Look at that crowd. And it was wide. Wide. We had a crowd, I've never seen anything like it. And I have to live with crowd size. It's all a phony deal, folks. But I saw a picture just the other night of practically no people. It was taken hours before our great day. That was a great day for us. That was a great, great day. People came from all over. People came from all over. So Sarah said, and Mercedes said, sir, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. I said, but I care. And people care. People care. So what I'm going to do is I'll give it to the great one. I'll give it to Mark Levin. And I'll give him the picture. And then I'll show you where they showed just the other day an empty field, like nobody on it. And you'll see the sun, you know, you can see it's very dark because the sun's like starting to rise, right? And you can have some fun. You're going to get big ratings on your show, I'll tell you that. Sunday night, everybody. Sunday night. 10 o'clock, right? Sunday night at 10 o'clock. Thank you. I knew that, actually, but thank you. All right, now let's get back into what I'm here for. And don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep, right? Don't fall asleep. You know, somebody said, oh, the speech you made, sir, the State of the Union speech was incredible. They said it was incredible. They said that was so great. And I did. I got great reviews even from some of the really bad ones out there. Of course, by the following morning, they had to change because the head people called up, what are you doing? A lot of it's not the people on television, you know. A lot of it's their bosses, which someday we're going to have to figure out why, Meadows, why that is. Because, you know, if you're building a great country, you have the best employment and unemployment numbers we've ever had. More people are working today in the United States than ever before in the history of our country. And you say, why are they upset by that? Why? Why are they upset by that? We've slashed 30,000 pages of job-killing regulations from the Federal Register. That's an all-time record in the history of the United States, even by presidents that are there for 8 years and in one case more. We passed the largest package of tax cuts and reforms in American history. And we got rid of the individual mandate, which was a big deal, which should lead to the ending of the disaster known as Obamacare. It should. The great state of Texas has a case, and it was literally based on the individual mandate. Now that it's gone, I don't know how they rule against it. Now we'll have to find out. But that'll soon be up in the Supreme Court of the United States, I hope. And we're going to see what happens. And then we're going to get together with the Democrats and come up with really great health care, okay? Really great health care. And one of the other things we did in our tax package is ANWR, perhaps the largest field in the world, oil and gas. I got it approved. And I didn't want to get it approved for a certain reason, because I thought somebody treated me very badly. Very badly. Don't get that vote very often. And I said, you know, I don't want to get it. Then I get a call from a friend of mine, and he's in the oil business. He's not asking for anything, but he really is a knowledgeable guy when it comes to oil and gas. He said to me, hey, and they all call me Mr. President. I have friends that for 35 years, hey, Don, how you doing? Hey, Donnie, I love you, Donnie. For 35 years, now they call Mr. President, sir. How are you? I have a friend, very rich guy, Richard Lefrak in New York, builder, good builder. He calls me all my life. Hey, Don, how you doing? I've known this guy so long, from kindergarten. It's true. Hi, Don, how you doing? How's everything? Now, I get a call the other day. Mr. President, how are you, sir? How are you? I said, Richard, lighten up. Lighten up. Call me Donald. Richard, call me Donald. You've known me for, I don't want to say because I don't want my wife to hear the number. But it's true. Actually, that's true. That's actually true. Richard came up. He said, I've known your husband for 65 years. I said, don't say that. I say 20, 25, 30. Don't say 65 years. But I said, Richard, call me Donald like you always do. Call me Don. Okay, Don. Okay. He gets his breath. 2 minutes later, Mr. President, thank you. But maybe that's a good thing. That's called respect for the office, right? Maybe that's a good thing, right? Many of my friends. And that wasn't in the script either, Mark. But we're renegotiating right now horrible trade deals that we're cracking down, and we are really doing a number, cracking down on countries that cheat and standing up for the American worker for the first time in many, many decades. Many decades. Our workers have been treated horribly. A country announces they're closing their plant in Michigan or Pennsylvania or Ohio. They're closing. They're closing a plant. They're going to move to Mexico. They're going to move to China. They're going to move someplace else. They fire all their workers. And then they sell their cars. No tax. Just make them in Mexico, sell them back to here. No tax, no nothing. Those days are all gone, folks. They're all gone. They're all gone. And in the new deal with Mexico and Canada called the USMCA, it's very, very hard, prohibitively hard, for a company to fire its 4,000 workers and move to Mexico or some other location. It's now a very costly. They can do it, I guess, if they want, but it's costly. It's painful. It used to be almost, I've been talking about this for a long time. I used to say it's almost like we're giving them an incentive to leave our country. Again, I'm for America first. That wasn't for America first. And we have great companies that are now moving back to our country. They're coming back in. They're coming back in. And by the way, you know I'm building the wall. We're finishing the wall. We got a lot of money. It's in the thing. And there'll be some people in the room that don't like this. We're down to 3.7% unemployment, the lowest number in a long time. But think of this. I got all these companies moving in. They need workers. We have to bring people into our country to work at these great plants that are opening up all over the place. This was not necessarily what I was saying during the campaign, because I never knew we would be as successful as we've been. Companies are roaring back into our country, and now we want people to come in. We need workers to come in, but they've got to come in legally, and they've got to come in through merit, merit, merit. They've got to come in through merit. They have to be people that can help us. They have to be people that can love our country, not hate our country. We have people in Congress, right now, we have people in Congress that hate our country. And you know that. And we can name every one of them if they want. They hate our country. Sad. It's very sad. When I see some of the things being made, the statements being made, it's very, very sad. And find out, how did they do in their country? Just ask them, how did they do? Did they do well? Were they succeeding? Just ask that question. Somebody would say, oh, that's terrible that he brings that up, but that's okay. I don't mind. I'll bring it up. How did they do in their country? Not so good. Not so good. But we need workers. We have to bring in workers. One other thing, because we have a lot of people here that are important people in terms of votes. We have some senators. We have some congressmen. When a senator tells us that he's a free trader, so am I. I'm a fair trader. I'm a free trader. But when a senator said we can't do tariffs where we make a fortune, or at a minimum, we're able to use this tremendous power that I found. Tremendous, old stuff, nobody even knew it existed. I'm able to use it at a minimum to negotiate great and fair trade deals. They wouldn't even be talking to us because it's so one-sided. Last year we lost 800, this is for many years, almost $800 billion on trade. It's not sustainable. You can't do that. And now we're making great trade deals. But when some of the senators, good people, I think they're good people, I just don't understand the thinking. So I say India is a very high tariff nation. They charge us a lot. When we send a motorcycle to India, it's 100% tariff. They charge 100%. When India sends a motorcycle to us, we brilliantly charge them nothing. So I want a reciprocal tax, or at least I want to charge a tax. It's called a mirror tax, but it's a reciprocal tax. Now, here's what I don't understand. I've had a lot of people, Lindsey Graham, I said, Lindsey, it's not his thing necessarily. It's not the thing that he's most adept at, but he's adept and he's smart. I said, Lindsey, if they charge us 100, I like a reciprocal. They charge us, we charge them. He goes, that makes sense to me. And then he gets on to judiciary and things that, frankly, he likes and finds very interesting. But he's a smart guy, and he said, I'll never forget. It took me about a minute, which is a long time. I did a bad description. It's so easy. They charge 100, we charge nothing. Now we have reciprocal, so it's 100. But what happens now for those that really think about tariffs and don't like tariffs for whatever reason it might be, and that's okay, what's going to happen is, in many cases, instead of 100 and 100, you're going to have 0 and 0, so you won't have any tariff, okay? It's going to happen. That's going to happen. But you have to start working on some of the senators that say, I can't approve this deal. I say, you know what, I want to just charge India, as an example, I'm using it, but India is a very high tariff nation. I mean, nobody knows it because nobody knows what they're doing in Washington. But India is a very, very high tariff nation. And they charge tremendous numbers. So they charge 100, so I say, I'm not going to charge 100, but I'm going to charge 25%. And I hear there's turmoil in the Senate because we're charging 25. So I call a couple of the guys up. I say, fellas, listen, they're charging us 100 for the exact same product. I want to charge them 25. And I feel so foolish charging 25 because it should be 100. But I'm doing 25 only because of you. I want to get your support. Sir, that's not free trade. Where do these people come from? Where do they come from? Where? Where do they come from? I need your help. I need your help, the voters' help. Where do they come from? So it can only be one of two or three things. Number one, I know they're very smart people. I know they are. And I even like some of them. But they're smart. So we take that out of the equation. So and I know they don't have evil intentions. And the other thing could be, I guess, maybe, these companies are all owned by people. And these people are very generous. Campaign contributions, they're very, very generous people. Can that be possible? I don't think so. I hope not. Because we're talking about our country. We can't allow a country to charge us 100% and we get nothing for the same exact product. For one thing, they don't respect us. They think we're stupido. They don't respect us. But let me tell you something. The world respects our country again. They respect us. And America is now booming like never before. Other countries are doing very poorly. Other countries are doing very poorly. And that makes it even harder for us to be successful. Plus, we have a gentleman that likes raising interest rates in the Fed. We have a gentleman that loves quantitative tightening in the Fed. We have a gentleman that likes a very strong dollar in the Fed. So with all of those things, and we want a strong dollar, but let's be reasonable. You understand that. With all of that, we're doing great. Can you imagine if we left interest rates where they were? There's no inflation, essentially. There's no inflation. Can you imagine if we left interest rates where they were? If we didn't do quantitative tightening? taking money out of the market. If we didn't do quantitative target, and this would lead to a little bit lower dollar, a little bit. I want a strong dollar. But I want a dollar that's going to be great for our country, not a dollar that's so strong that it is prohibitive for us to be dealing with other nations and taking their business. Since the election, we've created a number that if I would have said during the campaign, the fake newssters back there would have said this is crazy. 5.3 million new jobs, including over now 600,000 beautiful, brand new manufacturing jobs that were never going to come back to our country. These are jobs that were never coming back to our country. Remember? Not to talk badly about the other administration, but if that theory went forward with crooked Hillary winning the election, instead of being up almost 50% with the stock market, you would have been down 50%. It was heading down. It was going to be a disaster. We have nearly 5 million Americans that have been lifted off of food stamps. Nobody ever thought that was possible. The unemployment rate has reached the lowest in over 51 years, and African American, and you've heard me say this many times, Hispanic American, Asian American unemployment rates are at their all-time historic lows. And African-American income has reached an all-time high. So when I'm on the debate stage with one of these maniacs, I mean, trains to Hawaii. How do you get to Europe? We haven't figured that one out yet. We don't use airplanes anymore. You saw what I'm doing in California, right? They have a fast train. The fast train goes from San Francisco to Los Angeles. It's over budget by hundreds of billions of dollars. So they have a great idea. The new governor, nice guy. He is a nice guy. When I'm with him face to face, nice. When he speaks about me, not so nice. But face to face, he loves me. Called me up. He said, "You're a great president. You're doing a great job." He actually did 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. He'll probably deny it, but check the phone records at the White House. Everybody else does. Check them. Check them. Check them. Called me up 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think they need some forest money because, honestly, the management of the forest is very bad, and that's one of the problems they have. I said, you got to get those forests. We can't keep sending billions and billions and losing hundreds of lives, more importantly. Got to clean it up. It's called management. When a tree falls, you can't let the environmentalists say you can't take that tree out. It becomes like a matchstick, that tree. It hits a flame, it goes up. The leaves, every once in a while, you have to remove the leaves because they are so, a guy smoking a cigarette, he throws it away. He doesn't mean it. The thing catches on fire, we lose 400,000 acres and people are killed. You gotta have management. But he called me up the other day, recently, let's say 4 weeks ago or so. He said, I just want to tell you, you're a great president. And you're one of the smartest people I've ever met. That's what he said. Now, that's what he said. Will he admit it? No, I doubt it. But that's what he said. And you're doing a great job. And then he did start talking about, in all fairness, additional money for the fire, which is, it's okay. That's okay. We have great talks. I mean, I like him. Gavin Newsom, I like him. Nice guy. But they say things, politicians, they say things to your face, and then you see 2 days later they're giving a news conference. It's like, where did that guy come from? Where did he come from? But everyone in this great country right now because of our great new economy, is doing well, except, of course, for the never-Trumpers. But they are on mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. It's mouth-to-mouth. Mouth-to-mouth. They're hanging in. There are a couple of them. I mean, these guys have gotten me wrong. Not only never-Trumpers. You have never-Trumpers. You have certain hardline. They're basically dishonest people because, look, let's face it. Whether you like me or not, if my name is Smith instead of Trump, and if you told him I put in over 100 federal judges, it'll soon be 145 federal judges and 2 Supreme Court judges and 17 appellate division judges. That we've got the best economy maybe in our history. That we've got the best employment numbers and unemployment numbers in our history. That we've cut more regulations in 2 years than any president has ever done, whether it's 4, 8, or beyond.